So for the first dinner of the week, we're going to be making barbecue chicken in the oven, and what you're going to need is a container to put your marinade and meat in. So this is my barbecue marinade container that I always use. And then the ingredients I'm going to use this time is not barbecue, root beer, soy sauce, some liquid smoke, 1 onion, and a piece of ginger. What I love about barbecue marinade is that you can add like whatever you want to it. But this is what I have on hand right now, and this is what I'm going to use for my barbecue marinade. So I have my onion and ginger sliced up, cut up, and in the container. And as you can see, the ginger, whenever I use it for marinade or for stuffing chicken, I don't bother to take the skin off because it's just for flavoring. You're not actually going to be eating the ginger. So that's what I do. I just make sure the ginger is clean, and then just dice it up. And now we're going to add in the sauces or the liquid. Okay, so first up is root beer, and the root beer is right here. So this is how much root beer I have, and that's how much I'm going to put in. So I'm going to put in all of this, whatever I have of this root beer. So you're going to pour that in. Okay, next we have the soy sauce, and I have this much left, so I'm going to be putting in the whole thing. Get every last drop. And then the last thing will be liquid smoke. I'm just going to use, I'm not going to use the whole bottle, that's too much. I'm just going to eyeball it and see. I think that's good. Then I'm going to mix this around, give it a taste, and see if I need to add more of the liquid smoke or anything else. Okay, so I mixed up the marinade, gave it a taste, and everything tastes good. So I'm going to go ahead and add the chicken. So the chicken I'm going to be using is drumsticks. So 2 packs of drumsticks. And then some leftover chicken thighs that I had from one of the other nights. So I'm going to add all of that in and let it marinate. I've rinsed off my chicken, added it into the marinade. And I forgot to tell you guys that I started doing this at 12 in the afternoon because I want this to sit and marinate for a couple of hours before I actually barbecue them in the oven. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this to marinate in the refrigerator. So I'm going to close this up, let it marinate, and then I'll be back to cook these up. It's 5:30 now, so the chicken's been marinating for about 4 to 5 hours. And I have my first batch ready to go into the broiler. So I have my broiler at high, and then I have it on the it's like the 4th or 5th rack that I have it on, so that it doesn't burn. So this is where I have my rack, and I put my chicken. So I don't put it up too high because then it'll burn the chicken. So close this on up, and then I'll start making the rice. So I use a rice cooker to cook the rice. It just makes cooking rice a lot easier. So I always start with rinsing the rice. So you just fill it up with water, and then I just like stir it around like this. And I do it about, so I stir it around like this, and then I drain the water out, and then I do it for, like, I do it 3 or 4 times, just until the water is a lot more clear. Just got done rinsing my rice, and now it's in the rice cooker. And I don't use the measuring cup to measure out the rice or the water. I'll show you guys how I measure my rice in a different video. I just use my hand to measure how much rice or how much water is enough for the rice. But I'm going to go ahead and close this and then turn this on to get it going. Mixed up my salad. I'm using this Dole garden salad, and then the dressing is ranch dressing. I flipped my chicken twice now, and it's almost there to where it's cooked. I know this may look like it's burnt, but it's not. The dark pieces, or like the burnt looking pieces, are so good and flavorful. I think I'm going to turn it one more time, and then that'll be good. And there you go. Dinner served. Rice, salad, chicken. Tonight for dinner we're having baked whole chicken, and I've just rinsed my chicken and the gizzards and placed it on my baking pan. And now I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to use to stuff the chicken. So I'm going to use green onion, a carrot, some ginger, butter, and then on the outside I'm going to use the seasonings of black pepper, seasoned salt, Creole seasoning, paprika, and I'm also going to put some of the seasoning inside the chicken. So I have my chicken all seasoned up and stuffed. And I like to bake my chicken with the breast down, because I remember watching, I think it was the Food Network or something like that, where they said if you bake it like that, the juices will run down into the breast and make it juicy instead of dry. And then, so I bake it at 375 for about 1 to 2 hours, and then once I see that it's cooked, then I'll flip it over onto the breast side up, and I'll turn on the broiler so it can like crisp up the top of it. And then what I did for the breast, I don't want to turn it around because it's already on its breast right now, but I stuffed the between the breast and the skin, I put some green onions in between there to flavor it up even more. So I'm gonna pop this in the oven for 375, and then I'll check back when it's done. So I ran into a problem while trying to bake my chicken. So my oven started getting really smoky, and I forgot that I spilled some of the dripping from last night's dinner, and before I can use the oven again, I need to get that cleaned up. So that's why you hear the fan in the background trying to get the smoke out. So as a last resort, since I can't use the oven today, because it'll be too long to wait for it to cool down and clean it and then try to use it again. So as a last resort, I'm just gonna cook my chicken in a pot. I'm just gonna cover it with some water and boil the chicken, and I think it'll still be okay. Chicken's on the stove, and the 2 side dishes I'm gonna use for us to eat with the chicken is first mac and cheese. It's just the Kraft box mac and cheese, the blue box, and some, oh, this is Kraft also, I didn't notice that, stovetop stuffing. So I'm making 4 boxes of each, 4 boxes of macaroni, 4 boxes of stuffing, and I'm gonna wait for the chicken to cook, and then once the chicken is done, then I'll prepare these 2 side dishes. Chicken is done, and I just pulled it out of the pot. So I'm gonna foil this up, and I'm gonna work on my side dishes. The stock from the chicken I'm gonna use to make my my stuffing, my stovetop stuffing. So I'm gonna use that for my for my stuffing, and then I'll show you guys when my macaroni and cheese and stuffing is done. Stuffing is done. Mac and cheese is done. Dinner served. So my sister made dinner tonight. It's curry chicken with carrots and bell peppers. Then we have cassava. And then this is turkey tail soup. Also with carrots, tomatoes, and bell peppers. Tonight we are having lasagna. So I was finally able to clean my oven yesterday. And so it's working now and it's not smoking. So I have the lasagna already in the oven. It's been in there for about an hour now. And I think I have, what is it? Yeah. So I have 40 minutes left before I take it out, and then I'll put in the breadsticks. So we have breadsticks and then garlic bread. So I'm going to do both, and we're going to have that with our lasagna. So I just took the top off the lasagna, and it's almost ready. I think it'll be about 5 to 10 more minutes. Just waiting for the cheese to melt, but I'm going to top it off with some Parmesan cheese just to give it some extra cheesy flavor, and then have that melt. Once that melts, then I'll take it out and put in the breadsticks and garlic bread. Lasagna's out and resting on the counter. Now I have the garlic bread going in. I just put down some parchment paper so that it doesn't stick, and so I'm gonna let one side get browned, and then I think I'm gonna flip it over and do the other side as well. Okay, I've got the second round of bread going in and the breadsticks. So I've cut into the lasagna. This is what it looks like. Got some of the garlic bread ready. And the kids are going to go ahead and start while the other garlic bread and the breadsticks are still baking. And they can have more later. But dinner served. For our Friday night, we are having beef soup. So I'm going to go ahead and cook this, start cooking this ground beef up. This is 3 pounds of ground beef. And I'll show you the ingredients I'm going to use as we go. So here's what our beef is looking like right now. I have the seasonings in there, and then the vegetables I put in right now to cook in the oil are an onion, 3 stalks of celery with the leafy top on, because I like cooking that because it just gives whatever you're cooking a lot more flavor. And also 3 tomatoes. So that's the vegetables that are in there now. I'm going to be adding tomatoes and then some frozen vegetables later when I have the broth in. I'll show you that later. But that's what it's looking like right now. It's really good. And the seasonings are in there. The seasonings I'm using are this McCormick Grill Mates Montreal steak seasoning, paprika, garlic salt, and black pepper. Paprika is one of my favorite seasonings. Like, ever since I got it, it's one of my favorite ones to use in almost every dish. And then I'm using garlic salt instead of seasoned salt because we didn't have any garlic to put into the soup, so I'm going to use garlic salt to get that flavor. And then of course some delicious black pepper. So I've added in my water. I just use plain old water. I don't use stock because I season my meat mixture well enough already that it doesn't need any more seasoning with stock, so I just use water. And I've also added in the 2 packets of the gravy, or you know, the things that makes it soup or stew. It's brown gravy mix, McCormick beef stew seasoning. So the reason why I call it beef soup instead of beef stew is because whenever I make this, it doesn't get like super thick like beef stew, so that's why I always just call it beef soup. So I'm going to let this cook while I work on my potatoes, dicing those up, and then I'll just keep stirring and checking on it as I do my potatoes. So I put the potatoes in about 15 to 20 minutes ago, and it's almost cooked, so I just threw in the frozen vegetables. The frozen vegetables I like to use is the California blend, which is the cauliflower, broccoli, and carrots. And I have it now on the lowest setting, and I'll just let it continue to warm up the vegetables while we wait for the rice. And then once the rice is cooked, then everything will be ready and we can eat. Dinner is served. So for our Saturday dinner, we just had leftovers from our past dinners from during the week. Some of the dinners we had were the beef soup from yesterday, and then some of the chicken and macaroni and cheese and stuffing, stuff like that. So I didn't want to show you guys again, but yeah, we had leftovers on Saturday. Last dinner of the week, we're having Winco chicken, Winco fried chicken, potato wedges, just baked chicken, and coleslaw.
Dollars, I like diamonds, I like stunning, I like shining, I like $1,000,000 deals. Where's my pen? Bitch, I'm signing. I like those Balenciagas, the ones that look like socks. I like going to the Tula. I put rocks on